I can almost guarantee this would be like a crime.
How on earth is this enhancing your life? She's calling him a loser, so he goes to the ATM and gets more money out for her. It's cruel, you know? Feminism, my ass.
Yes, Mary, how's it going? Today we're going to be talking about Findom addiction. Welcome on the podcast, Mary. So you've taken a look at that documentary that I sent you. Let's get right into it.
Can I ask one question first?
Yeah.
What's the difference between femdom and findom? That's what I couldn't really tell on the documentary. Maybe we clarify. I mean, maybe people already know, but I sure didn't.
Yeah, sure. So I think Findom, I think that's financial, right? So financial domination.
Okay.
So it's the money side of it more than femdom, which is just the female domination. So if anything, I would say Findom is almost like an extension of female domination, because if you're into Findom, well, you're probably into femdom as well, but you've got to the point where it's escalated due to the tolerance cycle. Now you're actually paying excessive amounts of money and you're being exploited in that way.
I gotcha. Yeah, well, she's like, more.
Yeah.
Cha-ching. Was horrifying. Anyway, sorry, I'll let you captain the ship.
No, you're good. I think what I could do then actually is give a bit of we've not really done like an introduction. So I'll just share a little bit about what this podcast will be about. So basically, I'm on YouTube the other day and this Channel 4 documentary pops up on my screen. And just a bit of context to Channel 4 as well. Channel 4 was like the channel that when I'd be growing up, we'd maybe sit down as a family and occasionally watch Channel 4 News, followed by The Simpsons, right? Like The Simpsons on Channel 4. Like it was also innocent back in the day. Like growing up, life was so much nicer than it is in some ways, in terms of like what was around us, right? Whereas nowadays it's like, bang, Findom documentary, like flashing up on your screen on YouTube, like suggested watch, like. I think actually it might have even started. It might have been like kind of ready to play in YouTube. You know how sometimes on these platforms you'll have like the next video just starts playing. It might have been one of those. I can't remember. But anyway, this video shows up. I didn't actually watch it at first. A few days go by, and then I chose to watch it because I thought, okay, let's do a podcast on that. So I watched the video, and I was absolutely disgusted. And then I wanted to share it with you so we could do a podcast on it.
Yeah, I did. That was my first real exposure to it. You know, I didn't really know what to expect, you know, and it was kind of shocking and depressing. Like I messaged you earlier, I was like, God, what is the world coming to, you know, when they're like using that guy as a footstool. Like, well, I don't understand. And it's got to be, I mean, it certainly doesn't start there. I don't think that anyone would like start in femdom, whatever, you know, that maybe they start with porn addiction. And then, I mean, how did you get exposed to that originally?
Yeah, good question. Yeah,
you know?
so for me, what happened was I was obviously addicted to the porn first and foremost, you know, sort of stuff on sites like Pornhub. And then what happened is I had the addicted part of the mind was saying, okay, we've got to stop watching porn. And so I stopped going on porn sites, but because I still had the same neural pathways, the same thought patterns, I started to justify and rationalize my use of sexually explicit content by saying, oh, this doesn't count as porn because it's on social media, perhaps. And then what I was doing is I basically go on social media and I'd search and I'd find pretty much the most sexually provocative content I could find on social media. And one time I was doing that on YouTube, and I think there was a different category that I was actually looking at on YouTube, and then some femdom content started to get suggested. And because I was
social media. On
YouTube it was, for me. Okay. It was actually on YouTube. I don't think I've ever actually looked at femdom stuff outside of YouTube, but that's where I found it. That's where I looked at it. And yeah, I got quite into it for a number of years, actually. Never went down the route of Findom, but I think at one point on X, what was Twitter, I did look at a few Findom kind of videos and got into that world a little bit, but fortunately I never paid. But yeah, it's a very scary world because when you're in the addiction, you have so many thoughts like, I'm disgusting, I'm a failure, I'm a loser, what's wrong with me? You feel so much shame already. And I just really feel like the whole Findom world feeds on those thoughts that people are having when they're struggling with porn addiction.
Yeah, well, they calling the guys losers, calling them losers and just degrading them. And, it feeds into that, the category of self deprecation, self deprecating thoughts, which are addictive, which keep you in the addiction because you're such a loser and whatever. So it's, those women are validating that, and then you can use it as a reason to just continue in your addiction. Well, I'm just a loser anyway, and all of it just, I don't know, it just seems like criminal to me. It was very, I don't know, it's sad to take advantage of people like that.
Mm,
But it obviously, like I said, doesn't start there, right?
yeah,
It's that
yeah.
looking for something like, well, in your case, you were looking for something that wasn't porn, right? But one of the guys in the documentary or in the video said that it was an addiction for him. He used the word addiction, and I mean, it's got to be. Like, why else would you do that unless you felt like compelled to, you were wired in that way? In what rational mind would you ever do what these guys are doing? You wouldn't do that. It's just, yeah, boy, the world we live in, eh, Tom? God,
It's
crazy
it's so
stuff.
interesting to me that like the way you think about it is basically the same as me, because the way we think about compulsion is the same because we've learned the same method, right? So we speak the same
Yeah.
language. And what you said there about anyone sort of in their right minds, like thinking rationally, wouldn't engage in that behavior is the exact thing that I wanted to bring up on this podcast today. Because what people often misunderstand is the duality of the mind, how we do have these different parts. And you have a part of your mind which can think very logically, very rationally, is taking care of maybe the family, bringing enough money in, keeping you alive. And then there's also a part of your mind, what we call the addicted part of the mind, which is incredibly irrational. Will use any justification and rationalization to engage in a compulsive behavior. And as you say, who in their right mind, like using the rational part of their mind, would go, okay, I've earned, £8,000 over the last 6 months. I've got a good idea. I'm going to spend that on 5 minutes of getting out of the temporary discomfort of withdrawal. Like I'm going to spend it on 5 minutes of Findom.
Yeah.
Like no one
Yeah.
would do that rationally. It's an insane choice to make. And what I hated about this documentary is they didn't really highlight any of that. Like there wasn't enough talk about addiction in the documentary. And if anything, I think
No,
it kind of glamorized and almost praised these women who were
it
extorting
did.
these men.
It did. It totally did. Oh, look at her with her chickens and living in this beautiful country home, and and get all the money you want, and they're buying her all these gifts, and it's like, and oh, I never have to get naked, and just they totally glamorized it. Like, m- probably encouraging a lot of women to try it. Literally I was sitting there on my couch watching this thing, and I thought, well, you know, we make some money doing our work, we try sort of getting by, right? Hopefully we'll do better. But, you know, thinking, well, wow, could I do that? Hey, I got a big
Yeah.
yard. I get some chickens, guys buying me chickens, whatever. But I mean, it was not a serious thought that I had, but I was just like, wow, these women, they're getting stupidly rich over, you know, exploiting these men. And like, who in their rational mind is going to get down on the ground and say, use me for a footstool? It just, yeah, it was definitely eye opening, and not in a good way. It was,
Yeah.
yeah, what a world, and I know we get a number of guys who have gone over that direction, but again, that's, you know, it's would so feed on itself because, like, oh my God, look at me. And then they're validating it, and then there's the self deprecation. And then, you just get in deeper and deeper and deeper, and yeah, thank God there's a way to get out of it. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know,
What
sad.
would what would you sort of say to anyone listening to this who's maybe struggling with a Findom addiction right now?
I would say, you know, don't go down that road of I'm disgusting, there's something wrong with me, I'm a loser anyway. I'm always, all of the stuff that they're feeding, all that addictive thinking that these women are feeding into to get you to pay them money or to get you to engage in the videos and whatever. Um, yeah, and just understand that that's just an extension of the same addiction that you're already stuck in. If you hadn't gotten stuck in porn, you wouldn't be doing this. And I would pretty much guarantee, like I was saying, that nobody starts with that, right? I mean the guys that you have talked to, I think they start very young age getting addicted to pornography, and then they, like with any addiction, that tolerance cycle, you want more and more and more, right? Well, that's extreme. There's other extreme stuff that people can watch, with fucking animals or whatever the hell they're looking at out there. But this is like, that's just another example of very extreme where you're being degraded like that. And don't don't look at that as a reflection of who you are. Look at that as a reflection of being a product of our fucked up society where guys are getting addicted to porn when they're 10 years old. Every single guy I've been talking to on Liberation Day calls, I'm like, oh, I was 10, I was 11, all of them. They're just babies, they're just kids. And all that stuff has nothing to do with you. It has like, you're being taken advantage of. You're just being taken advantage of because you got addicted and now you have a tolerance and you're looking for extreme stuff and you're vulnerable to that. So don't ever look at it as a reflection of who you are. And just because you've gotten to that extreme doesn't mean that you can't turn it around and get out of it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Do you
And
want
I
to
mean,
explain?
the one guy said, oh, well, no, I want to keep doing this. I think it's the same guy who said it was an addiction, right? He was right there. He wants to do it and he wants to stop, obviously. But the thing is when you're in it and you want to do it, you deny that you want to stop, right? Because you don't know what else to do. So here he is, okay, she's calling him a loser. So he goes to the ATM and gets more money out for her, or whatever, the one that where they met in person, the cash meet or whatever they called it.
Mm.
It's like he said it was an addiction. He said, but he wants to keep doing it. He was trying to convince himself that it was enhancing his life. How on earth is this enhancing your life? Well, maybe temporary relief from the withdrawal from that addictive behavior, but that's that basic denial. You want to do it, you want to stop. So, and when you're there, oh my God, here she is. She's get down on my knees. She's all whatever they call them goddesses. Jesus F, everyone's a goddess, right? And so then he's going out, no, I don't want to stop doing this. This is enhancing my life. He's, denying that you want to stop because when you have that conflict you deny one or the other. So
Yeah.
rather than accepting, you have the conflict and then learning a way out. So yeah,
Yeah.
I know
I thought
that
it
was
was
a long
interesting.
explanation.
No,
Yeah,
no, that's great because I think it's so important for people to be aware that there's nothing wrong with them for having these desires and even going down that route. Like the behavior itself is probably not okay with you. Like the consequences are probably quite severe if you've actually got to that extreme and you're paying money. Like literally, it's
yeah,
your whole life, right? And even your financial situation.
yeah.
But at the same time, so important to recognize that anyone is susceptible to addiction. Like if I didn't have maybe the right friends, family around me, maybe the right education, obviously finding you and the beyond compulsion methods, who knows where I could have ended up in the
I
next,
know.
few years. Like if I had a shit ton of money to spend and I kept on going down that femdom route that I was going down at one point, and I was, getting into these binge cycles, who knows? I could have gone down into the Findom route. I honestly could have done. And I'm just a regular guy like everyone else who got exposed to porn at a stupidly young age, got addicted to neural pathways, and then didn't really have any education or any real understanding of how to get out of the problem.
Yeah, and it's interesting to me too how these women, they're very glib, they're just like, oh, la la la, like this is just this thing I do, and I'm, do you have a moral compass, like, at all? you know like, what the hell's going on? I don't know. Well, I mean, there's, OnlyFans, all of it, they're just, it's all the same shit, and then they're just taking advantage of guys who are in really deep and feeling really bad. And
Yeah.
they feel really bad about themselves. Well, let's make them feel worse and then take advantage of them.
Mm,
I don't know.
exactly.
It's ugly. I thought it was very ugly. Yeah,
Yeah, it's sad. It's so sad. And I think the only
really.
thing that did give me a bit of hope about it all was reading the comments, because all the comments were just saying
Oh,
similar
I
sort of
didn't.
things to us. And well, obviously they weren't actually explaining the addiction like we can do, but they were just saying like, "Oh my god, this is awful! Like these women are extorting men. Like this should be like a crime. Like this is horrible
Yeah.
to watch. Like why are Channel 4 like kind of glamorizing this?" So at least there is, it gives me some faith in humanity that there was just so many comments sort
Good. I didn't
of
read them.
judging this behavior in a similar way to us, really.
Yeah, well, it's just like OnlyFans. I had a conversation with one of the guys night before last, and about like women. Prostitution is not legal. I mean, it's like, I mean, in some places I think it is, but you know, it's not legal. But then why is it legal? Why is what these women are doing legal? I mean, that's such an extreme form of extortion, right? And like, but why is it legal for? OnlyFans, and whatever the webcam girls, everyone's selling sex online, why is that legal when you can't do it walking down the street? The
Mm,
cops are going to pull you over, whatever, and the other thing too is like, um, this femdom stuff and the OnlyFans stuff is so glamorized. When you see the hooker walking down 82nd, I mean 82nd here's like where there's hookers, right? I referenced that 82nd Avenue, but and I told you like in my Law and Order that I watched, the Special Victims Unit, they always portray these hookers as like the lowest life. They're hanging out in like these really scuzzy areas and whatever. And so, but OnlyFans, what's different? You're not on the street. It's so glamorized and like, and these women were definitely glamorized in their life, their wholesome lifestyle. The chick with their chickens, man. What was with the sandwiches?
God, that was horrible.
What the hell? I can't even wrap my brain around it. I'm going to make sandwiches out of chicken shit or the worms or whatever they're feeding chickens, and like the guys are going to pay for this. They're going to pay. Do they actually eat those sandwiches, or they just watch her make? I can't
I
even.
know.
I was like, I was just going, okay, this I cannot even wrap my brain around. It was
Yeah, yeah. But what you were
horrifying. Really.
saying there about, the whole OnlyFans and the cultural side of it, I think one of the biggest issues is that a lot of the people in that world, and maybe the documentary makers of this one, they kind of like justify it under the pretense that it's female empowerment and it's this kind of feministic
Yeah,
sort of pursuit. But like, if you think about the suffragettes and the sacrifices that they made to help like women get the vote and things like that, like historically, like they weren't doing that so that men in the future could be on their knees paying money deep in an addiction, being seriously like abused, basically. Like
yeah.
that's not what feminism's about at all.
No,
It's
I
about
know.
equality, and yet that's often the excuse that you kind of hear, and that's why I think that's one of the reasons why it's become so normalized. But imagine if the genders were reversed and this was going on in society. I can almost
Yeah,
guarantee this would be like a crime. Like it
yeah,
just would be a crime. What's going on if the genders
100%.
were reversed? It's so messed up
It's
because these
so
guys are
messed.
vulnerable. Like they're clearly in a bad mental position to be doing these things. You just wouldn't do
And
it if
using
you were rational.
feminism as a reason, that is just gives feminism a bad name. And the thing is if you're doing something that's okay and legit and morally right or whatever, why are you looking for reasons to justify your behaviors? Was that what you're doing to people? If you're doing something that's okay, don't go, oh, I'm doing this because of this, and feminism my ass. That's
Yeah,
ridiculous, you know?
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we can get this message out there. Even if just a few guys
Yeah.
listen who struggle with this addiction, hopefully you can know that there's nothing like actually wrong with you. And also hopefully this can help anyone else who does struggle with any sort of quite extreme sexual content. If you've gone down one of these rabbit holes, you've got into something where it really doesn't make you feel good, like that you're watching a behavior, like you're watching it and you just feel awful and a ton of shame afterwards. Hopefully you can hear that there is nothing wrong with you. It's just you've got caught up in an
Yeah.
addiction, and you've developed this addictive cycle, these addictive neural pathways in your brain. We've not mentioned it actually, but one other thing I just want to point out quite quickly is I think when you're engaging in like the Findom or Femdom worlds, and I don't know if everyone else is, the same, but for me, my experience of Femdom in the past was feeling so much anxiety and shame and this like anxiousness as I was watching the content.
Of
Like it
course.
would make me feel almost like petrified, like scared, like there was about to be someone like come into my house and like, I don't know, stab me or something. It was actually a really scary
Yeah.
sort of feeling when I used to
Yeah.
watch it. And then that got kind of linked up with the sexual desire and it became this big mess in my brain. And I imagine that's probably similar for other people. But and these guys paying the crazy amounts of money, it's like they're so dysregulated in that moment that they're unable really to think in a rational way if they've not been taught an education or they don't have a tool to put the rational part of their minds back in control in that specific moment.
Yeah. It's cruel, And the thing is like, obviously I'm not, you know, getting sucked into any of this stuff. I don't do any. This was my first exposure to really understand what it was about, or at least get a glimpse of what it was about. But for the guys out there, you're being exploited, you're being extorted. I get pissed off, get pissed off. Come and see us. We can help. Help is here, man. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Cheers for listening. Hopefully this can help someone out. We've got a group call with some of the guys. So yeah, we'll see you later.
Gotta
Cheers.
go.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.